Hello, everyone taking part in the Europe Matters event that we have happening this week. It's part of this session today. We're going to be talking about blocks and fear around creating and how to move past them. And I am joined with one of our amazing members of United ArtSpace, Dodo Newman, who is an artist and member and joining for the conversation. And we were just rambling on before we came on about Berlin and places to go. And then we were like, oh, we've got to go live. So here we are. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me here and being able to share some of my experiences as an artist.
I know I'm excited about this because I know Marita's mentioned before that we need to talk. And I was like, yes, we do. So I'm really glad that we're finally here together on a session where we can delve into this topic. And we do have Lloyd is planning on joining us as well. So we might have Lloyd hop in. Renelle, who works on our team, might be popping in as well. If not, then it'll just be Dodo and I, which is fine. So hello, everyone tuning in. Yeah, lots of colour in the background of Dodo. I know, it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, we didn't even get onto that conversation. I was looking at the background when we got on. So first of all, tell us a little bit about you. What art you like to make? You're obviously to everyone else, but you're in Berlin. I was just asking where you are, and we were talking about the amazing richness of that city. So tell us a little bit about your art making practice and what you do.
Yes, so hello everyone. Really happy to be here and very feel honored also to share my experiences, especially about fear, blockages, stopping. I'm a professional artist, so I've been doing art since I'm a child. But really doing it full time has been since 15 years now that I came out also to Berlin. That was my full step to start from the nowhere. So I really started from just nothing and plunged myself alone into the world.
Yeah.
And I came to Berlin, Germany, exactly because of the art scene. At
Oh,
that time,
really?
2008, yeah. It was. I actually wanted to go to New York, but
Yeah.
I had this vision. I had no idea why or how. I just had it for a year that I have to go to Berlin. It was my inner voice.
Oh, really? And you'd never been before? You
No,
just
never.
no, wow.
Nobody ever told me about it. I worked with a master. So my nationality is Hungarian, but I hardly ever lived in Hungary. I grew up in India, Iran,
Wow.
in Italy, also in the UK for a year. And yeah, and then Berlin. Art and yeah, so my master always inspired me to go to New York because he used to work and live there. And yeah, I was interested in going there, but then somehow Berlin came into my life. I really don't know how. It was this inner voice. And
That's
yeah,
incredible,
life
isn't it?
just happened to give me this opportunity through, I had a break, a smaller break in that time. And it was that time that I took up my everything and packed up and went to Berlin. So I started on all kinds of projects, but later on I stayed because my daughter was born here, and she's a major part in my life, also in my artistic life.
Yeah.
So I'm a keen supporter of women artists and women in general in the art world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she has also played a major role in my artistic journey.
Yeah.
So I create. I mean, my art is very much inner, so it's influenced by my inner journey, and it reflects also my growth in life as a human being.
Yeah.
And I consider myself, first of all, a human being and then an artist. So that's a role.
Yeah.
And I seek out to grow and heal myself as a human being. And that has also spread out all through my journey, my artistic journey.
Wow.
And I create abstract art. Um, yeah, I have many stories, so I can go on. So just stop me whenever, because
No,
yeah,
no,
when
no.
it comes
I'm
to
I'm
creating, it's
bursting
like,
to I'm bursting to ask more questions. In fact, I need to get a pencil because so I don't
yeah,
interrupt you.
please
And
feel
write the
free, because
questions.
I really can go into all over the place. So I really want to stay also focused.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just in short,
Yeah.
so I create abstract art, and I don't work with galleries. I never really had that kind of motivation because I like to do, I have my own visions and my own projects. And when I started in Berlin, I started from nothing, but I managed to get along quite well to sell artworks by myself. So I did my marketing, everything by myself, sales.
Yeah.
And then in 2011, I went through a very, very great break in my life. So I've always had ups and downs, as we all have. And this break was really something that hit me right down and hit me I touched bottom. And actually, it coincided also with my pregnancy. So I was in the middle of a huge project, really, really big size project. And I became pregnant. And it totally changed my life and my view, my everything.
Yeah.
But I also had to change my artistic journey and find new ways. And it was very difficult.
So you came to, sorry to interrupt, I'm just
Sure.
eager to paint the picture in my mind's eye. So you came to Berlin, and that's when the creative journey began for you. Is that when you started painting then and exploring and
Fully.
learning?
I've always done it, but
But it
I
was
grew
like
up in a very strict family, and my parents didn't allow me to follow the artistic path. So I wanted to study that, but I was not allowed to.
Really?
So I studied other things, which looking back now really helped me, on my way, because I learned, I worked in companies too. I learned, and I worked on projects, on big scale international projects. So, consulting companies. So it broadened my view, and I managed to, it gave me other skills and abilities that I later could use in my artistic journey. So I'm grateful for that in a way.
Yeah.
And so in Berlin, I found my heaven and my hell at the same time, because it opened up new creativity, and I really created big scale, big time. I had a beautiful studio in a factory building, so everything.
Yeah.
But then life gave me another challenge, a huge challenge. And actually, it was not that I became pregnant. That wasn't a challenge, but all the situation with a relationship that I was in, it was very, very difficult. It was full of drama and a lot of struggle. And it just condensed into a struggle that came out in everything in my life. So I went through a heartbreak. And then that affected everything. So my art, my emotional self, my physical environment, everything, my money, financial situation, and it just went down and down and down for many years. So it was like happened one day, and it was long. And
how far into your journey, how far into living in Berlin did that happen to you?
That was like in 4 years, around 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And then I hit rock bottom at that moment. The bottom physically was I had to leave my home alone. I was a single mom with my daughter. She was like 4 years old. So I was evicted, and I was full of all kinds of situational problems, existential problems, really, really hardships, like counting exactly, what I'm going to eat and how I'm going to pay my rent. But I think that's a struggle that's many creatives know. But it really spread all over. And I lost everything. So all my physical stuff, all my art stuff that I had to leave behind. I had just a few canvases. So I really had to start from scratch. I went to bankruptcy. So because that was the moment, I mean, for many people in our physical world, it seems like, oh my God, that's crazy. And it was hard to enter that, let's say, physical state. But I decided so because it was for me a time and a moment that I could start again. So I needed to start again, from zero. with
Yeah.
all the depths. And I mean, I had huge legal cases from the relationship. It was really, really, it was nightmare. And
Yeah. It's
I felt
unpleasant.
alone. So I had emotional pain too, because I was alone. So
Yeah.
I was not surrounded by family. I had one very good friend who helped me.
Yeah.
And so I also left behind people I thought who would, be be besides me, but didn't. So everything fell away. People, stuff, things, and in a way, it was like a purification. So as you can
Mhm.
imagine, I did not create or paint anything at that time.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean, it was just like, hard to even wake up.
Yeah.
But interestingly, my daughter was the person who helped me to start the healing process, because I had to be there physically. So there was no time of sitting down and feeling victimized. Although I did have that
Yeah.
feeling, so it was very, very dense and very difficult. But somehow, I found this stillness, and I actually found much more creative energies in this time, during this time. I mean, I'm talking of years of healing after this. So physically, I said, okay, I'm gonna declare insolvency and start from scratch. So now I have a blank paper. I can start. I found a little place for us, and I went, and it was hard, but I had to ask for support, social support.
Mhm.
It was really hard for me. I mean, I could sell before, but I lost everything. So it was starting from zero. But it started, something opened in that time, something much deeper, that that is more valuable than anything that could come from outside. And I started to create like baby steps from scratch. I had no studio. My beautiful studio was gone. In
Mhm.
the beginning, it was like, we creatives think like, oh, I will create when I have this, and I need this and this and this to create. And what I realize is that you don't need anything to
Mhm.
create,
Mhm.
nothing.
Mhm.
So everything starts from within,
Yeah.
everything. So, and this time really helped me to actually find my own self. So I was pushed. And from the outside on the paper, I probably was a wreckage, from societies and our culture's, view,
Mhm.
viewpoint. But from the inside, something new started to come up. I started to see things in a very different way. And it's just, I emerged as a different person, not in the physical terms, but in the way that I see life and creation itself, because we're all creators,
Yeah.
And what changed for me is that I was always so focused on being a creative, like, who, I mean, never planned with family. So I was that typical woman, who like, oh, independent, and I'm going to make it as a woman artist, and I don't need family, I don't need anything. And I realized that, first of all, I'm a human being, and I need to heal myself before I can be a full creative person, and I can give
Yeah.
from that,
Yeah.
because there's so many challenges, and our creative energies is so important as a source. And we give from that to other people. And
Yeah.
only if we are like full and healed can we really be also there, because you can be talented, and you can know all the tools, you can have the tools, you can have material things, but eventually you are a human being who has to give and relate to others and be in relationships, and anything can happen in life, so those
Yeah.
tools can be taken away anytime.
Yeah, what a big lesson that you have learned from that. I mean, I resonate. There's
Yeah.
some people saying here, I resonate with this story so much. And I've been in a very a kind of similar situation. And I
Mm.
understand that perspective that you're sharing, that once you've hit the bottom and then you come out the other side, you do start to see things in a different light. And I think what's interesting here now is just hearing how that has given you a different outlook on your art practice as
Oh,
well. And so I'm curious to know, during that time of hitting rock bottom, this is interesting because some people can't make, and I think that some people in those instances are drawn to making, and this is where we're all so different. Because I've had this conversation, I can't make when I'm in those phases. And so what for you do you feel brought you back to that art making process? I know you said you started with the baby steps, and what was it that, and what time period do you say that you had that break and then you started to heal, I would imagine, internally, and then think, right, I need to bring the art practice back? Can you remember that stage? I don't know if you're comfortable talking about that process, but I'd love to hear if you are.
Sure. I mean, I am. So anyway, it happened over like 4 or 5 years. So it's different for everyone, obviously.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm not talking of taking a pause because maybe you're pregnant, but something when life forces you. That's like a break.
Yeah.
And it's so unique, and everyone has a different timing and a way to come out. For me, interestingly, I mean, nature helped me a lot, and definitely meditation was one thing that I have no idea. Nobody told me to do it. I just found since 2014 I meditate every day, and I can see that it has given me so much stability and this groundedness and finding alignment to who I truly am. And that was the first things. So for me, this, and I didn't need money for it. I didn't need anything for doing these things, well, doing or being these things. And another thing that was more like physical related was I started running. I have no idea why. I mean, I never was a runner. I was a swimmer, but never a runner. And somehow this I don't know, this voice was in me. Then I saw people running during the marathon, and it was just so enthusiastic. I mean, I was in a state of melancholy, that was my general state. So really blue. So for months, I wasn't depressed. And I was aware of it, but when I saw the run and the runners, it just gave me this vibe of like some colorful thinking into. And also I could be out in nature, and I didn't need money for that. So these two definitely helped me first to come back to myself as a human being, and then to creating. I started to create with my daughter. I mean, she was small, and we really like to color and draw together. I know it sounds babyish, but that's what we did,
Yeah.
And we chatted, and we still do it actually. So it's like time flew, and children are just amazing. They're such healers and angels, really. And then interestingly, I had this idea she was in kindergarten, to do a project with children there. And they had a space there where I could create abstract stuff with small children from 2 to 5. And we did an exhibition, and from the funds that came in, we gave that to Caritas for other children in need. And that was a project that it started to, something started to come back again, because I love to, my way of giving art is through projects. So I like to create things like, editions, publications, or doing an exhibition and combining that with maybe giving back to other people in need. I like to combine things and make something into a project.
Yeah.
And so that's when I realized, like, something is coming back, the creative engine.
Yeah.
And that really helped me. And the other thing that really helped me is that during Corona times, the COVID pandemic, of course, it was very tough for every artist. And I was already coming back slowly to my my creative energies, but I decided to write a book about my experiences from before, because I realized I had been already in this state of not being able to create, of course, for different reasons. But I thought, now that is really gonna help me also to look, back and and to give me more insight and realizations. So I started in 2020 and about to publish it in May, the book Creating Again.
Oh my gosh, I love that title. Oh, it makes me feel
About
teary,
creating
actually.
Yeah, and it's interesting because um, it's kind of like a memoir, but it's also it comes back and forth. So about a realization and then experience. So it's not really like from A to Z, but
Yeah.
not in a timeline. But I mean, originally I intended it for other creatives, obviously, who were in a similar situation, who had a break and pain, facing your pain of how
Yeah.
to, because it's really painful for a creative person not to be able to create.
Yeah.
And so that was my original intention. And interestingly, recently, a very close friend of mine read it, and she's not a creative at all, but yeah, she's very spiritual, and we share a lot of other types of experiences. And she was amazed. She was like, oh my God. I mean, I was, skeptical. I thought, look, if there's some things that is like too abstract or whatever, please let me know, especially writing as an artist. And she's like, no, it speaks to me as well, because I also had a break and I'm a creator as well. And that was a great feedback, coming back to that. Creating is part is like, it's like when a child sees like a stone or a leaf on somewhere, and they pick it up and they're so amazed, and they run to their parents and like, mommy, it's like the most amazing thing to show. It's like they want to share it with others, and that's how we are also. So when you create something, you want to share it, and you want to say, look. And I mean, and when you feel blocked, or you feel, because the block is in you, then it's really painful. And it's something, because it's a human thing to spread and share what you've created.
Yeah.
And I wanted with this book to show, and especially very important, because this was one very important thing, that you're not alone, because that's what I felt for long. Like, oh, my story is like the only one, the worst, and it's shameful. It was really shameful. So it took time with healing to open up and see, like, wow, I'm not alone, and there's so many others who've had, yes, the story is different and the details, but the struggle, the same struggle, and they went through. And we can all get through it, and with healing,
Yeah.
it's possible. And even more so once you come out, because as an artist, there I used to live a lot of extremes. So either it was great and then like, yoo-hoo, flying, or it was really bad and then like, times are tough now, for months I need to create. So it was always this extreme. And my life is, I still have ups and downs, and I'm still, of course I do, and I have everything, nobody's perfect. But I find that everything is calmer, and I'm somewhere in this middle. So I don't have to always be aware of, oh my God, where is the thing gonna happen? And that has helped me so much in creating. And as I said, for me, what helped in my healing is mindfulness, of coming back to my human being. So I decided I want to be first a human and then a creator. And that has helped in every part of my life: relationships, work, finances, as a parent. I mean, we are creators and artists, but we are also other things. It's just a role. And a lot of artists, forget that. And
Yeah.
we have to
Yeah.
take care of it.
Oh my gosh. There's a couple of things I just want to add now to what you've just said.
Sure.
And one of them is the point where I might get a little bit emotional now. I'm a crier. The point where you spoke and you said about doing the workshop with the children, and you could feel that part of yourself coming back. that to me really resonates with me, because I think when you have gone to a dark place, and sometimes when you're in that dark place, you know, you can't see the way out,
Mm.
and you can't ever, and I've lost parts of my creativity many times in my life.
Mm.
And in those moments, you don't, there's a part of you that just thinks you're never going to get it back, or it's gone. You know, you're in a darkness. I don't think it's even that you don't think that you're going to get it back. You just don't think. You know, you're just that lost sometimes. I'm just generalizing here and speaking from my own experience. So I think when I heard you say that you started to feel that connection to your creativity coming back, I just felt that flood of emotion, because I just know how joyous that is to feel that. And
Mm.
also thank you for sharing that, because
Sure.
I'm sure there are people sitting here that are maybe in the darkness or struggling with their own creativity, and to hear that story, I think is so important, to just hear that feeling of it coming back. And it will, if anyone is sitting here feeling like it's gone. I read a message this morning from someone taking part in this event who said that there's a few people. One said that they've lost their creativity, haven't made in 6 months, they feel lost. They're taking part in this event with the hope to rekindle something. This story is so powerful, Dodo. Thank you for sharing, because there are people
Yeah.
taking part in this event that need to hear that, and
Mm.
hear that it will come back, it can come back.
Oh,
um,
yeah.
and have that hope. There was someone else I was chatting to yesterday that said they haven't created in years, and they're joining because of that reason.
Yeah.
So that brought back that feeling. It's so amazing to have that feeling, and knowing that I always think it's seasonal as well, that sometimes we have these bursts where the creativity feels lost, but it's just we're in a season of, you know, like winter. When we think about seasons, if the leaves fall off, things are a bit bare for a while and then they come back, and we need those times sometimes to
Mm.
just work on the self. I think is what is important during those times of quietness
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
creativity.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. This
No,
reminds
go
me
on.
exactly like something I mentioned in the book, that, I used to be always like really focused on my art, and like
Mhm.
I felt that, like, I mean, I never took vacation as such, especially before my daughter arrived. I was just like from morning 5, 6 to evening in my studio. And I always thought, if like, oh my God, I had this feeling or belief that if I leave this and if I go for a week or 2 weeks away, I'm not going to come back to my inspiration, that it's gone. And I always had this
Yeah.
fear, and I was like, so always, stuck on it. And it was only with my daughter that, of course, we had to have vacation or a little bit of breaks, obviously not like big, huge trips, but yeah, she had her school or kindergarten breaks, and I was forced to go with her. And somehow it was interesting, because I was always so, it was so much better coming back to my art or anything that I took 1 or 2 weeks off. It was so much easier. And I think we often have this, yeah, this disbelief. We're like so attached to things and beliefs, and we have to do those, and we want to control everything, and sometimes
Mm.
letting go. And that's also a type of break. Obviously, you don't have to have a huge
Yeah.
life break to have new revelations, but sometimes it's good to give it to yourself, and it really helps the creative energies to come out, just
Yeah.
getting away from it.
Yeah, Louise has just commented actually on this, and has made a good point of there's nothing more joyous than feeling your creativity flowing through you, and I really
Mm.
agree with that. And I think that's why
Mm.
sometimes we're afraid of losing it, because
Mm.
it's like when you're in the zone and when you're feeling that joyous feeling, we don't want to lose that. You want to
Mm.
you put it into a bottle and just carry it around everywhere. And so I think as a creative, it can then be hard to let go,
Mm.
because that feeling is you. For me, this is how it is. I'm in my zone, I'm focused, and I'm not carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders when I'm in that creative flow. And then as soon as I pull myself away from it, oh gosh, then life takes over. Or like you've just said, Dodo, it's that feeling of, oh gosh, what if I can't get this back?
Mm.
What if this was a one-off? What if I can't get that color again? What if I can't, and we hear that it's a creative muscle and you should create every day. And there's a lot of pressure, isn't there, then
Yeah.
for us to feel that anxiousness around if I stop now, what does this mean? It goes back to that thing, I think, around predicting the future. But what you've shared here is such a great message of, we need those downtimes. They're important. And your story is so incredible in that it shows us that actually taking that step back, even for a number of years, how terrifying that can be for a creative being coming from the art studio and the art life that you had. To have that faith that actually that experience of stepping back can enrich your life so much more, and to be able to see things in such a different way. It's incredibly reassuring, I would imagine, to a lot of people sitting here as well. And yes, I see people eager about the details of the book. We will 100% get the details of the book.
For sure.
And what I also loved was the conversation around healing yourself as a human, because I'm researching this at the moment, and I've made it clear. I'm reading the book called The Tools, and The Tools talks about that, in fact, around how to enrich ourselves creatively, working on ourselves as a human being. They don't use those words. I'm translating them as what you've just described. Is the core. That's where we can release that creativity. It's healing in here. And that is so, so important. And like you say, sometimes when we think about healing inside, it feels like this big task of like, oh my gosh, well, I'm totally messed up. It's going to take me years to heal inside. But what you described is small actions like running or meditation, and those small actions can have such a profound impact. So I was just wanting to raise that, because sometimes if you are in that creative block phase, it can feel like such an effort to hear those words heal, or move past this, because it feels like a big step forward. And that's what I love about you sharing how you broke these down into little bits. And
like your creative blocks are actually messages for you. So of course we want to run away and we feel it like it's negative, obviously. But if you look at it from a different perspective and see it as it's telling you something, that you have to look at something. Why are you not creating? What is going on in your life? And perhaps it's telling you to improve in some other area on your life first, and do that work, because there's work to do in many parts of us. And with that, your creative energies and your purpose in life will be enhanced or grow, and even your activities will be better. And so it can be, it's really, really unique to everyone. But looking back, of course, when I was in it, in the craziness, all I could see was like tragic stuff, obviously, and it was painful and hard. And I thought the life is against me, So I was a victim. So that was the story. And then once I could slowly shift away from that perspective, again, it's a process. So it doesn't happen from one day to the other, and it's again very unique to everyone on how long it takes. But looking back, I really see that it was life was telling me, like your art or the message and all the life experience that you've had is so much more. It's not. I'm pretty sure I would have gone into a wrong way. Maybe successful, don't know, like in our cultural way, successful. But then who knows? Maybe I would have gone into depression, or like a lot of people attach happiness to things. Those things can be taken away from one moment to the other, like the studio from me. And of course it was hard. I couldn't even imagine, like, how am I going to create now, without studio, my huge canvases, and how am I going to do it? And I managed to do it in a small corner of my apartment with little paper, pens. I really found everything that I could, work on, and also new ideas came up in me. And it's just the things that we are used to and we are so attached to. If we can let go of those things, then so many new things come up. I mean, there's like millions of possibilities we can't even imagine. We just
Yeah.
block ourselves. And of course the problem is our culture too. So our culture, unfortunately, society is really, especially in social media, you know, pushing these things. Oh, you're successful as a creative if you have this and that. And I mean, it's crazy.
Mm.
And I mean, I myself find myself like, oh my God, I don't have that, and I'm not doing this. Then maybe I'm, you know, it's just so distractive. And yeah, what this time gave me is this knowledge, deep not knowing that all is right, you know. And creating is not just when you're doing it.
Yeah.
Creating is when you're being, you
Yeah.
know. That's already creating, because you can create from within. You can imagine, you can visualize, you can start those energies without having all the stuff that you think you need.
Do you know, that's one thing I'm just going to write down now, the guilt. Um, this is a big one, I think, sometimes, is the guilt of not making. I've experienced this so
Oh yeah.
many times in my life
Yeah.
because I studied art for 7 years. I was in the studio making like 12 hours a day. It was my life. So to go from that then to periods of not making at all, I experienced this kind of extreme guilt for, you know, oh, you trained for all that time, now you're not doing anything with it. You now you're doing, you know, like throughout doing United ArtSpace, you've had periods, you know, you're talking about making art, but you're not making it yourself. I've had all of these weird thoughts that crop up, and I know other people do too. Sharon, my friend Sharon, has talked about this, that, you know, being a professional full-time artist, the guilt then of not making because you're not doing your job, you know.
Mm,
And so Sharon's talked often of this around, but it's so important to let go, because just because it's your job doesn't mean you have to be making it all the time. And so this is a big thing, actually, isn't it, around letting go and that guilt that we feel. And I
mm,
think just being aware of it, like you just said, there's a cause usually. I was thinking about this before I came on, as I was thinking about blocks that I've had. And I'm not saying that a block is an illness, but I liken it to the point of, if there was something, if I have an ailment, an ache or a pain, and it's causing me not to be able to do something, I go to the doctors and I talk to the doctor and figure out what you know, what's
mm,
going on here. Why can't I lift this cup up today? I'm in pain. And it's like the same kind of thing, isn't it, with the
mm.
block? Like, well,
True,
okay, I'm not okay. It's been going on for 3 years now. What is this?
true, true.
What is it really? And so we can start to kind of dissect, but it's doing this in a really kind, gentle way,
Yeah.
not prodding yourself, going, why have you not done this now? It's been 3 years since you painted on that easel that you bought and it's still there.
Mm,
What, you know, those kinds of conversations are just not helpful. And it's
yeah.
being gentle. And this is what I love about your approach. Even in your manner, Dodo, you've got such a really nice, calm, a really nice aura around you of,
Thank you.
you know, you said you described it, you feel content. And I
Yeah.
think that really comes across in the way that you speak as well. And I can see that that's now how you approach probably the creative blocks. That we'll ask now actually how you deal with that, because it feels to me, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that you come at it from a real place of kindness to yourself
Oh
now.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's has been a real difficult part, because I have a huge critical part in me, like many of us,
Mm,
not
mm,
only creative people. That has been really, really hard. I've grown up in a very strict family environment, and not only that, but yeah, I had to deal with my own childhood issues, and of course,
yeah.
yeah, my character or my other critical parts that have grown through the years. Very perfectionist, and well, it comes from a place of feeling weak or not good enough. You know, that's has
Mhm.
been a recurring theme. Not good enough, never being enough for anything and anyone. So yeah, it's that's a
Mhm.
hard thing to deal with, because when you look at it, then you have other parts coming in, you know, so you start to be harsh. Oh, that's not good, that's not good, also to feel this not good enough part. So it's, yeah, it can be really messy. But
Yeah.
Being kind to ourselves is really important. What really helped me is, again, meditation. As I mean, we all have different tools that can help. For me, that has been. I mean, I cannot miss a day. You know, it's really it's part of my routine, like brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Good.
journaling,
Yeah.
so writing out things, and that has immensely helped me. And being kind. So even if I feel like, oh, you know, I'm my worst person ever, and I'm really angry or mad, I can just write anything down and deal with it. And then somehow, yeah, it's just I mean, I'm a discoverer anyway. I'm a seeker. I've always been, you know, a seeker, and I've always been interested in philosophy and the meaning of life, and
Yeah.
I've tried out so many different things. So it's part of me, and I think that comes out in my art too. So I'm like curious as a human being, you know, what am I more than just this physical person? And yeah, I'm curious in science. I'm curious in it in the spiritual world. So I love to connect these two, because somehow they're two also connected and important. So it wasn't so far from me, you know, to go into the self-discovery. But what I realized is that it is starting to come in other parts of our world, you know, mindfulness. And I realized that for creative people, it is really essential. And especially because we have like a huge struggle that we're carrying from past centuries. I mean, like, if, you know, the first thing whenever whenever I told people that I'm an artist, is like, oh really? And how can you live from that? Like, everyone's like, oh, you must be really struggling. Sometimes, you know, it's the first impression they have of an artist, you know, the
Still now.
starving
Yeah.
bohem, you know, who is
Yeah.
dying at home and alone, and
Yeah.
or drinking and taking drugs, or I don't know.
Yeah, there is so much. It's quite sad, really, but there is still so much stigma, isn't there, around,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, and
saying that you're
that's
an artist. Yeah, yeah.
exactly, and that's what we carry, these stories as well.
Mm,
And
mm,
it's part of our shame story, you know,
yeah,
of being an artist. Yeah, nowadays it's changing, and I see that it's a great time to be, I think, a creative person.
yeah.
I think it's fantastic, but I also believe that it has to come together, all these possibilities, like through the IT and, yeah, crazy, all kinds of tools and everything, and the world is shrunk, but we have to be really, really working on ourselves. And that's why
Mm,
I think it's really important, because those things can be taken away.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we have to
yeah,
heal ourselves in order to give back to others. Because
yeah.
as an artist, I mean, if you're dependent, for example, on just one gallery, anything can happen. What if that gallery goes bankrupt? Or we saw in the COVID time, I mean,
Mm,
there were so many artists struggling, or especially artists who are parents also, and that's another category, you know.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like it's a difficult, so you have to handle life as well.
yeah,
Otherwise you cannot create. So it's all connected.
yeah. It all ties up because life is never going to be plain sailing. It's never going to be an easy ride. There's always going to be something.
No, no, and there's always ups and downs in
Mm,
relationships, in our life. Things happen,
mm,
come and go.
mm,
Like
mm.
what happened to me, from heartbreak, everything fell apart. And
Yeah, yeah. I'd love to know how your artwork, this was a question actually that came from
sure.
Victoria. How has this experience now changed your artwork? Has it changed it visually or
Mm.
colours, or has that still stayed the same, you know, the actual
Mm. Well,
physical
it's
artwork?
interesting. I mean, I don't think in physical terms. I mean, probably there are things that I've always been interested in, as I mentioned, the energies. I mean, I have books
Mm,
from teenagerhood that I've been writing about energy, like
yeah.
how it flows, and things in motion and transformation, and
Mhm.
how that connects us humans. So in that term, I don't think what has really changed is that I want to give back, you know, and not because for myself that, oh, I want to be a successful artist. So the intention has changed, and
Mm.
everything is intention.
Ooh,
Uh,
that's good.
yeah,
Ooh, to pause there, everyone. Yeah.
yeah,
Because that is that is it, isn't it? That brings us back to everything that we've talked about, the guilt, the permission to pause, the direction of it. It's all about the intention, isn't it?
Yes.
Because if
Yeah.
we're feeling that guilt, it's because we're putting pressure on ourselves to be a particular type of person, or we're, and actually if we flip the intention around to
Yeah.
being free and taking that pressure away, it's so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, because we are not creating, we're not, we don't want to be like artists who are successful in the way that it's depicted in social media. And we know a few names. I don't want to say any names in particular, but
Yeah.
we're always on the list and top of the whatever, and all you see that they're like happy and famous and they're surrounded by attention, because attention is what we crave for as artists. Like, oh, here's my art and I want people
Yeah.
to look at me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I probably had that too, because I mean, that's part of our human conditioning.
Mm.
And that has totally changed. I really don't care anymore.
Yeah.
It's all is important is that, if there's one person who's gonna see it and I touch that person, I'm happy. And it's
Mm.
interesting because this has changed. Interestingly, opportunities come to me. So I'm not like, it's not the other way around. I'm not chasing things and opportunities. And I've slowed down, definitely. I'm not in a hurry, because
Mm.
I'm more than, this human being. I
Yeah.
have my own
Yeah.
time. So it's not anymore. These things definitely have changed. On the other hand, for sure, also I'd love to, I mean, I have visions, because I love the traditional art, but I also want to include it and link it somehow with technology.
Yeah.
And I really love it. And there are beautiful, amazing things that the two can bring out. And
Mm.
I think it also can impact more people in the world, because we need beauty, I think. And I love to spread that. I mean, there's not enough beauty in our world, and beauty has lost this meaning, this the real sense of beauty. I'm not talking of the kitsch
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and the trends that this is beautiful today, and tomorrow something else will be beautiful. So yeah,
Mm.
I think this is what has really changed in me, and because of this, of course, my art changes too. So,
Yeah. 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 Oh,
but
thank you.
interestingly, like, the colors have always been. I mean, I love like strong colors, probably
Yeah.
because I grew up in India and Asia, in Iran, and I
Yeah.
love I love vivid colors
Mm.
and unusual colors also. So I love to use gold, but again, gold for me has a different meaning than in our Western culture. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
more this purity and light that it brings.
Mm.
So in this sense, I did have a blue period. And interesting, that was before my break. I probably already felt something is going
Coming.
on. All blue, dark blue colors. It was crazy.
Oh, there's so much to learn from your art making, isn't there? You can really tell so much from what comes out,
Yeah,
what you're
true,
doing.
true.
Someone's asked a question. Let me just come back to this. Louise says, "What can we do to change the narrative and perception about artists?" I think
Mm,
it's talking. For me, I just think sharing Dodo's book. I create this event, Your Art Matters,
mm,
to really like we're doing here right now. It's talking, and I think sharing our stories and being really
mm.
authentic and vulnerable and honest, because then that spreads and it shares the message that there's art is so much more than someone painting, having exhibitions and making
Yeah.
millions. It's that's one way, just one way of being an artist, and there's nothing wrong with that way of being an artist, but there's a million other ways to be
Mhm.
a creative and an artist. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that's where I think sharing stories like Dodo and what we do here, and then you will share that story with someone else, and the ripple
Mm.
effect
Yeah.
hopefully will filter through to the generation below.
Yeah, so true. It's like the
Yeah.
other day I met a person, my daughter's a friend's mom. It was the first time we met, and like introducing herself. And I said, "Yeah, well, I'm an artist. I'm painting." And she's like, "Oh my God, really?" I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "You're the first artist in my life that I met." And I was like, "No way." And she's like, "Yeah." And she was like out of like a curiosity, as if I would be, I don't know, like it was so interesting. I mean, she didn't
Yeah,
have any negative feelings to it attached, but
just
as
a
you said,
shock.
sharing, yeah, it's like, oh, all right.
I get that all the time, all the time. When I
Wow.
share what I do, people go, and there's a lot of just like, really?
Yeah.
But it's lovely though, and but I think for every story you can share like that with
Hmm.
someone and shock them or wake them up, because that's
Yeah.
what I feel like we're doing sometimes. We're waking people up. Like,
Yeah.
yes, this is how you can live, and they go, what? And that's what I talked to my friend Sarah about this. I feel like sometimes people are just asleep. They
Mm.
just don't see this kind of way of living or this kind
Mm.
of being, and so it's about waking people up to that way. And that's
Yeah.
what's really lovely about these sessions. That's why I appreciate you coming on, and everyone that comes on to share their story, because it is important. And so I just want to start wrapping up now, but I would love to hear about the book and where people can we pre-order the book, Dodo? Is it ready to pre-order, or are we
No, not yet,
not
not
yet? So
yet.
we need to put people on the radar when that's
Yeah.
released. Yeah,
Yeah, it will be on my
yeah,
website, and maybe
yeah,
I send it to you, and you can just there will be also obviously online, so possibility not just to have it in book, but
yeah.
yeah, on
That's so
on
exciting. And I just think how
Kindle.
amazing that you have, this book has been born from that
Yeah.
time. If you could have sent a message back to yourself in that time to see the future, you're going to write a book and you're going to do all this,
Right.
I know you just would not have seen it back
Wow.
then. So before we wrap up, I just want to talk, I just want to kind of like summarize. If people are feeling a bit lost, it's knowing, trusting the process is one of the things that's always been helpful for me, that trusting that everything's happening as it should, and knowing that the process can take time and healing can take time, and reigniting that flame of creativity can take time, and that's normal and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that time passing doesn't mean that you're going to lose your skill or lose who you are. It's just all the journey, it's part of the journey, and what you're experiencing in those times of being stagnant is still contributing, like Dodo shared here, that time is going to inject into the creativity in the future, and it's trusting that. And I think taking part in this event, we've also got a free 7 days of inspiration on our website. If you're feeling very lost, you can sign up for that, and that will give you some prompts. But like Dodo said, just doing small things, even if you're doing something tiny, you can really sometimes criticize these little tiny steps, like all I've done today is this drawing, all I've done is doodle, all I've done is this. But you're still actively exercising that creative muscle inside of you. And also, like Dodo has said, I bet there are so many other ways you're being creative, you just don't see it. You're not recognizing it, or you're overlooking it. And one of the things that I was thinking before I came on this session that really helps me when I'm feeling like I want to get back into being creative again, but I just don't know where to start, is always coming back to my why. I'm a big advocate of the why. And when I really dig into why do I want to go back to creativity again? Why do I want to pick up the pencil again? What is this? It's going back to like the doctor's analysis. Like I'm going to the doctors and like, I want to do this. And why? Why is this important to me? And I'm like, journaling can be helpful, but really connecting with that bigger why this is important, really then helps me spur that forwards. And that's where this Kickstart Your Art Challenge is really great, because it really helps you connect with why am I doing this? Why am I curious about this? And it starts to ignite that curiosity and that excitement about seeing things again and touching things and feeling
Mm-hmm.
them, and really being present with, and then being excited to take that forwards into something. Dodo, do you find this in your art making, that being connected to that, because you sound like you're really intuitive, and like you said that Berlin was calling you, and you've
Oh
had
yeah.
this consistency in your artworks. I feel like you've got this inner this inner intuition that's strong. Would you agree?
Yeah. I definitely trust my inner voice. When I have something like, oh, I quickly have to do, I mean, I just stop myself. Like, no, that's not, when something is like really pushing me, there is something wrong there. And
Mm.
what is interesting is that like when I create, sometimes, you know, ideas and visions come up, and I quickly start writing them, because when you're creating, you're not in this thought mind. Then I know that that voice that's coming is somewhere, you know, from my deep side. So I know
Mm.
that that's genuine, and I have to act upon that.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you mentioned, the why, the intention, I mean,
Mm.
it's so important.
Mm.
I totally resonate and agree with it. It's,
Mm.
I never used to think about that, but yeah, thinking about, first of all, if I have like a project idea or a vision, like, or anything, a little thing that I want, why do I want to create this? What is behind it, you know? What is my intention with it? Or I want to go
Mm.
towards a direction. What is my intention? And that's so important to make and think about, definitely.
It is, because I always find as well, when you have your own intention that's intrinsic, and a big why,
Mm.
it can then alleviate that pressure of what other people think.
Oh yeah.
So I'm now moving towards a new kind of art making, and I'm really connected with my why, and I don't care what anyone thinks about it, and that is really exciting. I'm like, finally, I'm like over it. I'm like, yeah, I'm moving towards this. And I think that's a big part of the fear sometimes, is, if we're really honest, it's what other people think of us. If we
Yeah.
lived on a desert island with no one around, then we'd make art in a really
Mm.
free flowing, joyful way. I don't think we'd have as many of the pressures, would we, if we just lived independently? And it comes from outside a lot of the time. So getting inside here
Yeah.
alleviates that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, even if someone's not so much into writing, I think like
Mhm.
if you talk either to someone, or you can talk to your phone, or
Mm.
just bringing it out is very important, especially as an artist. We tend to
Mm.
create by ourselves, so we're often alone in the
Yeah.
process. So it's really important. And another thing I wanted to say is connecting with others. So this is why I'm really super glad that I joined
Yeah.
United ArtSpace, yeah, in end of December, so beginning of
Yeah.
this year, because this was also something that really I felt. I mean, I came back to many of my good energies and found new ones, but I really wanted to connect with other artists. You know,
Yeah.
I've always been more of a loner in this sense,
Mhm.
and this has been great experience for me, that I can find you guys here
Yeah.
whenever I click on there, and there's every time, almost every day, something going on, not
Yeah.
just the courses. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. It's just the connection is so important, that you're not alone. That's
Yeah.
that gives that trust back, you know, and hearing like, oh, the other person had the same block or the same
Yeah.
experience, and or
Yeah.
you share and ask a tip, whatever, you know, and
Yeah.
there's no judgment and nothing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that, Dodo. And I really
Yeah,
appreciate you being part of the community and finding us, and being
I'm
part of it
so
all, and
on.
to everyone else. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. What a wonderful conversation, everyone. Wow. I just feel so, I actually feel like a big weight has been lifted off my shoulders listening to that. It's been lovely. I feel lighter. Thank you so much for taking the time to share that with us. We will put the links below for you to go and check out Dodo's website, and we'll put the links to the book as soon as it's available as well. And thank you to everyone that's tuned in live.
Yeah, such an honor. Thank you so much, Michelle.
You're welcome. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.